Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're involved in real estate, maybe property management or investing, you probably feel like the modern rental landscape is, well, fundamentally broken sometimes. We're talking today about what feels like an actual arms race happening right now in tenant screening. Our main focus is on generative artificial intelligence. It's this double-edged sword, really. It's fueling this huge surge in very sophisticated rental scams, and it's also providing the only tools that seem strong enough to fight them off. So we're going to dig into your source materials today to understand how these perfect fake rental documents get made, why just relying on, human screening is failing pretty much everywhere, and what kind of systemic change, what the research actually calls trust infrastructure, is needed to protect investors today.
Yeah, we really have to start with the scale of this because it's not just a small issue anymore. It's widespread. The data from Single Key, it's genuinely shocking. They found that roughly 15% of tenant applications right now contain falsified documents.
Wow, 15%.
Yeah, 15. Think about that. And that number is climbing. It seems to be driven mostly by real market stress, affordability issues, job insecurity.
Yeah.
It pushes people who are desperate to try and game the system.
15%. So, okay, that's like 1 in every 7 applications landing on a realtor's desk could be fraudulent. Let's unpack what exactly is being faked in this new era of scams.
Well, it's pretty much everything that's supposed to prove financial stability. We're talking identity docs, income validation. So fake credit reports, really meticulously put together proof of income docs, pay stubs, employment letters, bank statements, even fake driver's licenses. Basically, if it's used to validate who someone is or how much they earn, scammers are taking it.
Right. And we used to think we could spot the bad fakes, didn't we? That old manual screening relied on experienced agents catching, well, amateur mistakes. What were those telltale signs, the kind of crude Photoshop jobs that are now, well, totally obsolete?
Oh, they were often so simple. Looking back, it's almost funny. You'd look for really basic stuff like formatting inconsistencies, irregular fonts, weird spacing, things not lining up right on a digital document. A big one was when the account summary didn't actually match the account overview totals. Or, maybe the most obvious sign on a fake pay stub, seeing whole numbers after taxes were supposedly taken out. That just doesn't happen in real payroll.
Right. Sense always matter there.
Exactly. And of course, the really simple check, looking up the employer contact info and finding it didn't trace back to a real verifiable company.
It almost seems quaint now, the idea we could rely on spotting a blurry logo or a typo. Because here's the real kicker, right? That manual due diligence process, it's essentially dead now because of generative AI. Can you explain the immediate, transformative impact these tools have?
It's night and day. What used to take someone with, decent Photoshop skills and quite a bit of time to make look even vaguely convincing is now a really sophisticated scam that can be put together almost instantly. There are free online templates, generative AI tools. They can pump out incredibly convincing documents in seconds.
And they don't look fake anymore because the AI knows how to make them look right? Is that it?
That's exactly it. The logos look crisp, authentic, and critically, things like tax deductions look accurate because the AI models behind these tools, they're trained on huge current data sets. They know current tax laws, payroll structures. They can simulate totally realistic bank deposits, transaction histories. It's all perfectly precise.
So the agent who's still relying on spotting a fuzzy font or an old company name on a pay stub,
They'll just miss the fraud every single time.
which means the professional realtor or property manager who's often juggling multiple applications, maybe under pressure with time-sensitive leases, they just aren't equipped to be, forensic document examiners?
No, they can't be. Yeah. And shouldn't have to be. These sophisticated fakes are, frankly, nearly impossible to spot with the naked eye. Relying only on human judgment now introduces just an unacceptable level of risk. The tech used to commit the fraud has dramatically outpaced our human ability to catch it in this specific area.
Okay, so given that huge risk, let's look closer at the real costs when these scams succeed. Because it's way more than just losing a month's rent, isn't it? It sounds like a massive financial and legal headache for the property owner or investor.
Oh, easily. The total costs can climb into the tens of thousands of dollars very quickly. You're looking at potentially months of legal fights, the cost of the unpaid rent itself. Often there's property damage with difficult tenancies, and then the whole drawn-out, painful process of actually evicting a tenant who got in under false pretenses. Once that risky tenant is in because of fraud, it's just this huge uphill battle for the owner. It's long, it costs a lot of time and money, and the outcome isn't always certain.
And for the realtors who are actually facilitating these leases, there's a big reputation hit here too.
Absolutely. Realtors are hired for their market expertise, right? Investors put enormous trust in their judgment for screening tenants. So if an investor client gets hit repeatedly by scams or even just one really big, costly fraud, that whole ordeal can just completely destroy the trust.
You lose the client.
You lose the client, and your professional reputation takes a serious, lasting hit. This is why realtors really need a technological advantage now just to level the playing field.
Okay, this analysis leads us perfectly into what feels like the core insight from the sources for this deep dive. AI didn't actually invent rental fraud. It just sort of ripped the cover off a massive existing systemic gap in the market. Can you unpack that fundamental flaw for us?
Yeah, that's key. The underlying issue isn't really the technology itself, it's the lack of systemization in the screening process. The research suggests that most rental markets, and the sources did specifically highlight Canada as being vulnerable here, they just lack the kind of built-in standardization and safeguards that protect other big financial transactions. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't buy a car or a house without verified paperwork, third-party checks, insurance.
Right. But this issue, this lack of standardization, it feels universal, doesn't it? Is this just a Canadian problem, or does this flaw exist basically anywhere renting still operates on a sort of handshake and a pile of papers?
Oh, it's definitely universal. Historically, renting has often operated on that kind of trust-based system, reviewing printed documents, even in major markets. The sources probably emphasize Canada because the rate of fraud is accelerating so fast there, tied directly to that lack of centralization. But that systemic gap, that void where verifiable infrastructure should be, that's where this idea of trust infrastructure becomes not just like helpful, but absolutely necessary for any modern rental market.
Okay, so let's nail down that term then. What exactly is trust infrastructure in this context?
It's basically a comprehensive set of tools plus established processes. They're all designed to build accountability, increase transparency, and really drastically cut down the risk for landlords and realtors. And crucially today, that infrastructure has to include AI technology. It's about building a verifiable system where identity and income can't be easily faked with some cheap online tool.
Which brings us nicely to the solution. Essentially, fighting fire with fire. We have to use the same kind of tech that created the problem to actually solve it. How is AI being used right now as that first line of defense?
Well, the same kinds of pattern recognition and data analysis used to create the fakes are now being used for detection. AI can scan documents and flag these tiny micro details that even a really experienced human agent is almost certain to miss. It just processes the sheer volume of data points and compares them against known patterns of authenticity way faster and more reliably than any person ever could.
Okay, so what are the specific, like, highly technical red flags that AI is trained to find, things that are basically invisible to us now?
It gets really granular. It looks for subtle things like mismatched fonts hidden deep within a paragraph somewhere, or tiny inconsistencies in layout, and really importantly, suspicious file metadata.
Okay, hang on just quickly. For listeners who might not know, what exactly is suspicious file metadata?
Right, so think of metadata as the document's sort of digital fingerprint. It tracks the creation history, like when it was made, when it was last edited, maybe what software was used. So if a bank statement claims it's from 6 months ago, but its metadata shows it was actually generated 10 minutes ago using some free online PDF generator.
Okay. That's a huge red flag.
Exactly. That's an immediate, high-priority flag for the system. The AI also tracks things like irregular pay cycles that don't match standard employment practices, another telltale sign of a cooked-up document.
This really sounds like a complete, almost mandatory overhaul of the whole screening process is needed. So if I'm a realtor or a property manager listening right now, what are the key, like the 4 practical steps I need to take now to build this trust infrastructure properly?
Yeah, it's about evolving beyond just those manual checks and creating truly verified channels. First, you really have to insist on verified digital channels whenever possible. So request income verification through platforms that connect directly to the major credit bureaus. Think Equifax, TransUnion. This gives you a full verified picture that's just much, much harder to manipulate than a simple PDF someone sends you.
That makes total sense for accuracy, but does it add friction? Applicants are already stressed, right? How do you get them to go through what might seem like a more intensive process?
That's a fair point. But these systems are actually designed to minimize that friction. They often make the process almost instantaneous and very secure for the tenant. And the benefit for the realtor, the landlord, is absolute certainty in the data. So you're kind of trading maybe a tiny bit of initial explanation for complete confidence later. Second, AI-powered verification really has to become your first screening layer. The tech should be tracking those subtle edits, analyzing the metadata, flagging inconsistencies before a human even looks at the document. It acts like a digital gatekeeper, filtering out the easy fraud attempts right away.
Okay. And the third practice sounds like it could actually speed things up, which is crucial in a hot rental market.
Absolutely. That's pre-screen risk scoring. You leverage the AI to quickly assess all the tenant documents together, credit scores, pay stubs, existing debts to help decision makers move faster. It helps weed out the clearly high-risk applicants early on without needing a long manual review, which actually speeds up the process for all the legitimate applicants too.
Right. And finally, there's still a need for oversight, right? Technology is great, but we still need human judgment in the loop.
Exactly, which is the fourth step. Regular audits of your screening outcomes. You need to combine the tech with the realtor's market expertise. You have to actually take the time to review how the system is working. Are there biases? Is it giving false positives? You need to keep refining it to make sure the AI is being used effectively for your specific market. Technology can definitely have blind spots. That human review keeps it sharp and fair.
So the bottom line here seems pretty unavoidable. Fraudulent applications are intrinsically linked to this bigger affordability crunch that's just reshaping the entire rental market. Sharp eyes, good instincts. They're just not enough anymore.
And that really is the core conclusion, yeah. The rental market needs comprehensive systems that enforce accountability and transparency. And the research highlights that when these systems are in place, the whole dynamic starts to shift. Tenants know their information will be verified properly, and landlords know their income source is genuinely protected.
So the power of having a comprehensive system isn't just about better screening, it's about overall protection for the investment itself.
That's right. When realtors combine these digital verification tools with other safeguards, things like automated rent collection or even rent guarantee programs, they're not just doing better due diligence, they're actively protecting that income stream and significantly boosting confidence for their investor clients across the board.
Okay, that brings us to our final thought for you to chew on. The systems we've talked about today, they really emphasize building accountability and transparency through much tighter scrutiny. So given that tenants now know their information is going to be put under this heightened level of automated scrutiny, of this digital verification, what new ethical or maybe operational challenges does this shift introduce into the landlord-tenant relationship going forward? Does this necessary scrutiny risk eroding trust from the applicant side? Maybe. And how do we manage that perception? We'll leave that thought with you. Thanks for joining us.